All right, Assalamu alaikum everyone. So we have another question on unemployment today. It was tested in October, November 2024, paper 2, variant 2 and question 4A. And this was on a topic which has become examiners' favorite in the last couple of years. And that is explain two methods of measuring unemployment. And the second half of the question tests, consider the extent of possible difficulties in obtaining an accurate measurement of unemployment. So the way that we're going to approach this question is we will start with basically talking about the the two major issues of uh, two major methods of measuring unemployment, which are basically the claimant count and the labor force survey. We're going to explain how these methods of measuring unemployment work and how do we measure unemployment through these. And then we're going to talk about at least two possible difficulties that can arise. And then at the end, we're going to conclude with how these problems escalate in certain situations. So we're going to talk about developed versus developing economies and on what factors the extent of these difficulties depend on. So to begin with, I'll start with the definition of unemployment. So I'll say, so unemployment is a situation where people of the working age are willing and able to work and are actively seeking a job but cannot find one. Right? So there are two methods of calculating unemployment. So there are two methods of calculating unemployment. Number one being the claimant count, and number two being the labor force survey, commonly known as the ILO method, the International Labor Organization method. So we start by explaining what the claimant count method is. So the claimant count method measures unemployment by counting the number of people who are registered with the government as claimants. And we need now to explain what claimants are. Claimants is any person who is claiming unemployment benefits, right? And this method calculates unemployment using the following rate. So we divide the number of claimants divided by the total labor force. So the total labor force in this case is the claimants plus employed people, and we times that by 100. Right? We then talk about the second method. Another method of measuring unemployment is the ILO method, commonly known as the labor force survey. So in this, individuals are surveyed in a sample of the population and are asked three things to be classified as unemployed. Number one, they should be without a job. Number two, they should be actively looking for a job. And number three, they should be available to work within 2 weeks. Once all these three conditions are met, once these three conditions are met, the person is classified as unemployed. So here now, yeah, in this case, so the unemployment rate in this case is equal to so number of respondents classified as unemployed divided by total respondents, and we multiply that by 100. So so out of the sample that you take, the total number of respondents that you classified as unemployed, you divide that by the total number of respondents and you multiply that by 100. So we have now answered the first statement of the question, which is we need to explain the two methods of measuring unemployment, and this in total would constitute to 3 marks. Now we need to explain what are the difficulties in measuring unemployment with both of the methods, right? So there are difficulties associated with each method. Firstly, with the claimant count, it may underestimate the true unemployment because not all unemployed individuals may be eligible for the benefits such as the new graduates or people in the informal economy, right? Additionally, the claimant count method also tends to underestimate the true unemployment because people may choose not to claim benefits due to social stigma or complex government procedures, which in economics or in business terms, we call it red tapeism, right? So, due to excessive red tape or complex government procedures, people may not claim unemployment benefits, right? So, therefore, while claimant count is a useful method, it might not capture the true unemployment. So, similarly, we'll now talk about the problems of ILO method. Similarly, the ILO method is also without with limitations because it is based on sampling and people self report the data, right? Self reporting the data means that the people who are in fact unemployed, they are reporting the data themselves. So there is a self reporting bias. The results are subject to these biases because they may not be very honest in answering this. And if they are not honest in answering this, it means the survey is not giving you a perfect representation of the population, right? This is because um, this leads to self reporting bias where people are prone to lying or not completely being honest in the survey. In such situations, the sample no longer remains the representative of the entire population. And furthermore, respondents may misreport their employment status, especially if they are working in informal sector or perhaps to avoid government radar. right? So that's why there are problems associated with it. So so now we have covered the second part, the half of the second portion of this question, which is the possible difficulties in obtaining the data. Right now, we'll move on to the conclusion. So overall, both methods are with limitations, but the extent to which the limitations occur depends on whether the economies are developed or developing. Since developing economies have large informal systems and greater corruption and weak government controls, both methods in this case will misrepresent the true economic situation. However, if governments are strong with better administration and policing, with low proportion of informal sector, then this then true unemployment would be easily and accurately measured. So that in all is the answer to this question. So we started with the definition of unemployment, what the claim and count method is, what the ILO method is, what are the difficulties, and then the overall conclusion. That's it.